So thank you again for everybody for joining us. We're going to start with the lobbyists, one of all three of whom are on this call, but Alan is going to be sharing his screen. So we're planning about 15 minutes with him, about 5 minutes where I kind of talk about our planned kind of schedule for that morning, and then the rest of the time we'll have for Q&A for any questions that people might have. So, Alan, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
All right, can you all see my screen there? All right, well, hello everybody. I'm glad you could join us tonight, and we're excited to have you down at the Capitol with us in a couple of weeks. We are your lobby team. My name's Alan Morris, and also on here is Eliza Schultz and Elizabeth Rosen. To start here, we just have an advocacy 101, but to begin, we're going to just go down to the basics and talk about how a bill becomes law here in Colorado. So the Colorado legislature has 100 members. There's 35 senators and 65 in the House of Representatives. You'll often hear us say 18, 34, 1, which means you need 18 votes in the Senate, 34, or 33, sorry, 33 in the House, and then you also need the governor to sign to get a bill passed. Each member in each house is entitled to introduce 5 bills each, so they are guaranteed these 5 bills. A member can request a late bill, and these are approved by leadership. So generally, these with Democrats in control right now, Democrats usually can get late bills. Republicans, it's a little harder. And the General Assembly meets for 120 consecutive days from January to May. So we're approaching about the 1/4 mark right now, and session ends on May 8th. So when a bill is introduced, a senator or representative can introduce the bill as their sponsor. Each bill must have a House sponsor and a Senate sponsor. These bills are drafted by nonpartisan staff in the Office of Legislative Legal Services. In crafting and drafting a bill, other individuals can take part in this, including aides, lobbyists, other stakeholders, with the approval from that sponsor. When a bill is first introduced, it's what's called first reading, and you'll hear us say that it's read across the desk. This is when it is literally read by the clerk in either the Senate or the House, and it is assigned a bill number and assigned to a committee. After a bill is introduced, an analyst from Legislative Council staff will also produce what's known as a fiscal note, which kind of summarizes what the bill is and if it has any fiscal impact on the state budget. After a bill is introduced, it's then assigned a date for its first committee hearing. In Colorado, every bill that is introduced is required to get at least one public hearing. So this is when supporters or opponents can testify for and against the bill. And also the committee gets to debate the bill and can offer amendments. So the sponsors can offer amendments, or members of that committee can offer amendments to the bill as well. The bill is then voted on, and then the bill is either sent sometimes to another committee or to what's called the Committee of the Whole, which is the whole Senate or the whole House. So as I said before, a bill can have multiple committee assignments. So, some big bills it'll be assigned to education, finance, and appropriation. So it has a longer path. Of course, this is also where bills can die, which is also called postponing indefinitely. If a bill gets through that committee hearing, all of its committee hearings, it is sent to the Committee of the Whole, or the COW. Again, this is the whole Senate or the whole House. And this is really when every member can debate the bill on the House or Senate floor, offer amendments. Sometimes this is where you'll see a lot of the filibustering happen because debate is oftentimes unlimited. And then the bills are then passed by a vote, which is determined by the chair of whoever's chairing the floor at that time, which is always a member of the majority party. So bills that they want to pass will always pass second reading. And then there is third reading after second reading. This is again with the full chamber, and this is where the recorded vote is happening. Typically, debates during third reading are limited. Each member usually only gets 10 minutes to talk at the well. And then this is where the recorded vote is, and this is also when lobbying and other communications with members is somewhat limited. Technically, this isn't how it really happens now with texting. We can still get a hold of them, but uh, then when we're done with that, we repeat this whole process again in the other chamber. First reading, committee, second reading, third reading. So often the versions of the bills that are adopted in one house are different than the versions that pass in the other. Um, when this happens, the one house can the sponsors in one house can either recede their version and adopt what the other version passed, or they can adhere to their position. And in this case, then the other house would have to agree to that, or the bill dies, or they can request a conference committee. In a conference committee, leadership in both houses chooses members of this committee where they can hammer out the differences in the versions of the bills and then reintroduce it into their chambers. If it passes both chambers, the bill is then sent to the governor. The governor must sign or veto legislation within 10 days of receiving it, or the law becomes law without his signature. However, there's a ton of bills that are passed in the last days of session. So all of these bills, if it's passed in the last 10 days of session, he actually gets 30 days after that last day to debate signing or vetoing. If he does veto, the bill can be repassed by 2/3 of each chamber to become law without his signature. Right now, Democrats are one vote shy of this supermajority in both the House and the Senate. So we don't see this a ton. However, if session has already ended, the legislature is not meeting, he can veto it, and there's really nothing that the General Assembly can do. This gets a little bit into the nitty-gritty safety clause versus petition clause. Each bill will have one or the other. So a safety clause can be added, and this means that it becomes law as soon as it's signed by the governor. Petition clause, on the other hand, allows for the public to petition the measure within 90 days. So this means that it will go into effect about 90 days after session ends, which would be August 8th this year. Okay, so that was the basics. Now this is just a little advocacy 101, kind of what to expect when you're down at the Capitol and how things operate down there. So an overview, there's really like 5 pillars to advocacy: relationships, endurance, logistics, knowledge, and communication. But first, who is an advocate? You are. What do you advocate for? Your community, programs, policies, or in this case, your profession. And who do you advocate to? Down at the Capitol, when you guys have your advocacy day, that'll mostly be to lawmakers. But advocacy can include other groups, state departments, and the governor's office. That first pillar was relationships, and this is because advocacy is really all about relationships. Relationships matter, they take time. And remember that in Colorado, we have a part-time legislature. So they range from experts to novices on our issues. Most of the time, they know nothing about our issues. So be confident that you're an important constituent. You're the advocate for your profession. You're the expert, and they want to hear from you. Endurance, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We often recommend that you reach out often, not just when you need something. So when you find out who your legislators are, go ahead and introduce yourself, send them an email, and can you commit to making regular contact with your legislators? So when they see a issue that involves physical therapy or might affect physical therapy, they go, oh, I have a constituent that's a PT. I should reach out to them. Logistics, again, you'll often know more about our issues than the legislator will. They have very limited staff here in Colorado. Most of them have only one aide and they only work during session. Some of them will have more interns, but they don't really have a professional staff. So again, you're the expert. They are often look to us in the lobby and to you as advocates to help make those decisions. When you're down at the Capitol, if you do meet with your legislator, their offices are often really small and crowded, but more likely than not, your meeting with them won't even happen in an office. It's most likely going to be in the hallway, in passing. This doesn't mean that they don't take you seriously. This is just how things work down there. You'll see it's often very crowded. There's 10 different conversations going around you at the same time. It's loud, and you just have to roll with the punches sometimes. If they do want to schedule a meeting with you, oftentimes, especially with constituents, they'll do this over Zoom. Um, Knowledge, again, you are the expert in the room. Make sure that you're sharing accurate information about your community, your profession, what life is like for you as a student. And if you have questions, be sure to ask. And if you don't know the answer to their questions, just be honest and let them know that you'll get the information to them in a follow-up. Communication, again, advocacy is not just a one-time thing. Make sure you follow up. After your meeting, make sure you follow up, give them your business card, get a business card from them. You'll have materials that Tammy will get to you all that we'll be using, a fact sheet for our bill. So make sure you send that information along and let them know that you can be a resource for them in the future. Because again, don't just be in touch when the sky is falling. Constant communication is really key to effective advocacy. This is just what advocacy can look like. It can be the call. For you guys, it will likely be a meeting down at the Capitol. It can be an email, and it can look like a variety of these things. Just to wrap up, advocacy in a slide. Remember, you're the conduit for the realities of your community, your profession. Understand why you're advocating. You are all students for a profession, and the 100 people in that building get to make decisions that affect your profession and your livelihood. Respect, but don't idolize policymakers. They're people too. Most of them, started out small from their communities. They're doing this part-time. Remember that your voice matters. Make sure you're informed. Have an ask. We'll have an ask for our bill on sports physicals that you'll be able to give them a fact sheet on. And then again, make sure you follow up and maybe be an ongoing resource for your legislator. And if you're wondering if any of this really matters, it does. This is some of the more recent wins we've had due to APTA's advocacy down at the Capitol. Last year, of course, we had the big physical therapy sunset bill, where we secured title protection for both DPT and SPT, and the ability for PTs to describe DME to their patients directly. And then in addition, also codifying that ability to review your patient's medications, order tests and imaging, and for PTAs to perform wound care. A couple years prior, we secured 6 visits for physical therapy for pain patients without prior authorization. And this was part of a bigger opioid avoidance bill. The year before that, we got the ability in the scope of practice for you all to determine return to play after a youth has a concussion in sport. And then the last sunset was the addition of dry needling into the PT scope of practice. This is the website where you can go to find your legislator. Everybody will have one senator, one representative. This is outdated. Neither one of these people are in the legislature anymore, so I should fix this. But But there you'll get their email. You can go to their webpage, see what they're all about. And this is our contact information for you all. But we will see you all down at the Capitol in a couple of weeks too, where we'll get to meet some of you. And that's what I have.
All right. Thank you, Alan, very much. And in a second here, I'll give Eliza a chance to talk just a little bit about a couple of the bills. But I wanted to give everybody kind of an outline of what this day is going to look like, because I'm sure you're all thinking this is, like you think this is a good idea, but you don't really know what to expect. And so there's some things that are, it's going to be a little like a while ago. So the last time I did one of these was pre-pandemic, and we were able to do things a little bit differently. But we've had to kind of work within how things are operating at the Capitol right now. And so we have this block of time for all of you from 8 to 10 on Wednesday, February 19th. Okay, and we're all going to meet at 8 o'clock there's actually a Knights of Columbus Hall that is right outside of the Capitol. Okay, and so we're all going to meet there and just make sure we're all coordinated and ready to go. We're all going to wear stickers that identify us as being part of the physical therapy profession. And kind of some brief words from organizers, from the lobbyists at that time. A lot can change in 2 weeks. We don't know exactly what's going to be happening with a couple of bills that we're planning on lobbying for, but that 8 to 8:30 will be for that. Then about 8:30, we're going to try and take a group picture before we all split up a little bit. So around 8:45, we'll move to the two different galleries. Some of us will be on the House side and some will be on the Senate side. There's a gallery where everybody can kind of watch what's going on. And that's where we're going to plan on kind of splitting people up and having everybody sit in the gallery. And the gavel drops, the big sessions start at 9 o'clock. And so some of what you're going to be doing is just kind of observing how does everything work in the House and in the Senate. And then the student organizers with the student SIG are going to kind of be working with people who have said that they'd be willing to talk directly to their legislators. And so during that session, the lobbyists will ask to pull one of the legislators out. And you'll have the opportunity, maybe one or two of you will have the opportunity to talk to that legislator literally out in the lobby outside of the ongoing House or Senate, and tell them a little bit about why you're there and why you're lobbying for this bill. Okay, and we'll do that repeatedly with multiple members until we hopefully get as many as we can possibly get. So depending on the House and the Senate's day, we have no idea how long that's going to last. Okay, it could last, a half an hour. It could last a couple of hours. We don't know for sure. But we'll be in there and going through this process for as long as they're in session. Then the session adjourns and they go into committees. Okay, there's a little break and then they'll go into committees, and depending on what the final schedule is, there'll be different kinds of committees that will be meeting at that time. And so we'll split people up. Again, you're already split by House and Senate, but we'll split up people where maybe there's 4 committees, and so a quarter of the people will go to one of each one of the committees. And you're kind of just observing and seeing how things operate in those committees and how people testify and different things like that, how the committees discuss the various bills. So you have no idea what is going to be discussed on that day. It might be things that are healthcare related and like peak interest, or maybe you're from a rural area and you're in the agriculture and different committees that actually have some like implications for your hometown. So we don't know for sure who's going to be meeting, but we'll have everything divided up in time for everybody to be there. Okay, and then at 11 o'clock, the plan is to go back to the Knights of Columbus Hall, And that from 11 to 12, Colorado APTA is going to provide pizza for all of the students, and it's going to be a student social. That was kind of at the request of the student SIG. They thought that would be a good idea. So the chapter is going to provide pizza, and it's going to be an opportunity for everybody to kind of talk and get to know each other from different programs. In addition, there's going to be some representatives from the Colorado APTA board who will be there to kind of introduce themselves and let you know kind of a little bit about what's been going on in the APTA that might be super important to students. So that's what I have. So Eliza, do you want to talk about the couple of different bills that we're thinking we're going to lobby on when we're down there?
Happy to, Tammy. And sorry I'm off screen, folks. I am stuck in I-25 traffic. So a couple of just pro tips for you when you're at the Capitol. It gets hot. Dress in layers. It gets really hot. There's no air conditioning in the building. So the more bodies, the warmer it gets. There are bathrooms in the basement. Go to the bathroom before you head upstairs because they can be hard to find. Wear smart shoes because you'll be standing on marble floors that are tough. And it's a contact sport. So please don't bring giant backpacks because people will be bumping into you the whole time. And then don't stand in the hallways. You'll really irritate other lobbyists if you're just hanging out in the hall. So step over to the side of the wall or the railing. So the bills that we are working on, one is around Medicaid. And there is a legislator who used to work at the Medicaid department and wants to help providers. So we've been working with her to draft a bill, has not been introduced yet, doesn't have a bill number yet, but will hopefully ease some administrative burdens for private practice. For example, Medicare does not require a physician to sign a plan of care, but Medicaid does. We don't think that should work that way. We think we should go with the lower administrative burden. So there's some other components of that bill. We're really excited to have such a Medicaid provider champion in the legislature. Another bill that I'm actually really excited about this one, not that I'm not excited about the others, but this one I think is super awesome, is related to the pre-participation school sports physical. There are providers listed in statute that are able to perform the pre-participation school sports physical, and PTs are not on that list. Chiros are on that list, but PTs are not. So we are working on a bill that would add PTs to the list of providers who can do the pre-participation school sports physical. What's great about this bill is that there's no cost to the state to implement it. The state's budget super sucks. And so anything that costs money won't pass. So I'm glad to be working on a bill that won't cost the state money. And then the third bill that we're working on is around workers' compensation. There is a thing called Level 1 credentialing, and it's like Workers' Comp 101, how to fill out this form, where to find that form, how to submit the form. And you can only take this and be level 1 credentialed if your profession is listed in statute. PTs are not listed in statute, so we want to add PTs to the list of providers who can do this. And the Department of Labor and Employment, where workers' comp lives, has been giving higher reimbursement to providers who take this credentialing. So this is an opportunity for PTs to have a higher reimbursement rate for the patients that they're caring about. We are so excited to have you guys at the Capitol.
Great. Thank you, Eliza. So I want to bring up, because I know there's going to be quite a few PTA students, and but for both PT and PTAs, the Medicaid bill doesn't sound all that sexy. But what this would potentially do is make seeing patients with Medicaid more financially feasible for different practices. And if it's financially more feasible for different practices, that ultimately means that salaries for physical therapists and physical therapist assistants will be more reflective of a more appropriate salary. Anytime, it doesn't sound all that exciting, but anytime you have a bill that reduces administrative burden or increases reimbursement potentially for, depending on the bill, that actually is good for all of you as you're coming into the profession. So Chris unmuted. So he's the other co-chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee. Looks like he might have a little bit of something to say. And then after that, we'd love to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that last point, Tammy, because I'm a practice owner in Colorado, and reducing administrative burden means we put more money in our employees' paychecks. It's a direct increase in pay for our employees. So yeah, this is going to be super helpful for us.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so what questions do you have? And you can just unmute and ask them, or if you're more comfortable putting it into the chat, that'd be fine as well. Okay, I'll answer a question nobody asked. Okay, so how many people are we expecting and from where? Okay, and so we're guessing somewhere between 50 and 75, just based on kind of what the signups have been so far. And those are students from the University of Colorado PT program, from Regis University PT program, from the PTA programs at Pima Medical Institute, at Concord College, at Pikes Peak Community College, possibly Pueblo Community College, and what am I missing? Arapahoe Community College. We haven't heard from them, but we're hoping that we get representatives from all of the programs. So so the more the merrier. Encourage your friends to come and participate, and make sure that they know that if they are more comfortable kind of sitting in the gallery and absorbing what's going on, no one is going to force them to do anything that they're not comfortable with as far as trying to directly lobby and talk to legislators. The great thing about participating in something like this is that there is going to be a time where you're like, I should really testify about this because I am passionate about this topic. And you'll get to see what does that look like. And honestly, as someone who's done it, and Chris and other people on this call have done it as well, it's less intimidating than you're thinking it's going to be. You're going to be seeing lots of different people come up and testify about different bills in committee. And they're just like you, they're just like me, they're everyday people who are passionate and think that a particular topic is really important. So both the OTs and speech language pathologists have bills that they're running. So possibly we'll see some OTs, some speech language pathologists that are testifying, for instance. I think medicine has a bill that they're running. So lots of different potential to see things that are going on at the Capitol, and also just make you just a little bit more comfortable going down there and seeing what's happening when there are important bills that come around. So one of our lobbyists, Elizabeth, raised her hand. So go ahead, Elizabeth. You have something else to add, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. I just also want to warn you all, if you can carpool with another student when you're heading down, there is a lot of
Sounds like she was dropped, but I can continue speaking to that. My boyfriend lives a block away from the Capitol, and it's always a pain to find parking around there. So yes, highly recommend the carpooling.
Absolutely.
There's a ton of construction going into downtown. It's awful, and the parking lots are expensive. So
yeah, Colfax is right now.
Excellent. Thank you both. So what to expect from here? I strongly recommend just copying the legislator finder that is in the chat right now, and just be prepared to know who your state representative and Senator R. And then the student SIG has sent out a survey, and hopefully you guys have gotten it, or we'll get it soon to fill out just a little bit more information. They're also trying to facilitate some carpooling and things like that. So I think that would be great considering the traffic issues. So, and I think that's probably it. So we will definitely have this training available for everyone, and share it widely, encourage people to come. And like I said, let them know that it's a lot of it is going to be kind of an experience. So if they're a little intimidated by the idea of going down and advocating or something for bills, then they don't have to do that. They can just come down and experience it, so that in the future they feel comfortable coming down and doing the same thing. All
And I
right.
want to thank you all for your commitment to doing this. It really helps us, be more prominent in the eyes of the legislators. It helps us get the job done a lot easier when they know that there's a lot of engaged people in our profession. So thank you so much.
Yeah, especially engaged students. You want to play that card while you're down there. Tell them you're a student. Tell them you're a student that uses Medicaid right now. Tell them you're a student that has student loans. All of the things that are really important to you it really it's important to them as well. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and we'll send this link out so everybody can share it with their friends. Appreciate everybody, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.